Late. Let's start with this last Parsha Vayechi, which is a fascinating Parsha, truly a fascinating Parsha. We have over here the portion which Yaakovino wants to reveal the redemption, the Mashiach comes when the Mashiach comes, but God doesn't allow him, and therefore he goes to actually bless the Jewish people. And in the blessings, he blesses the tribes. And in the blessings, he has, within these blessings, he has hidden, he hides in there the future of the Jewish nation. And in which capacity each tribe will have. And ultimately, this Sikha, I mean, as Rashi himself says in the Parsha, that there are many midrashim, there are many beautiful, excuse me, the person back there, excuse me, בבקשה, אנחנו עושים שיעור פה, אם אתה מדבר, אם אתה מתפלל so, התפילה, אם אתה מתפלל so, the over here, the Rebbe comes out in the beautiful concept in the aspect of Malchus, kingship of the Jewish nation, which is the tribe of Yehuda. And the way Yaakovino expresses himself in these two tribes, two tribes over here, Reuven and Yehuda. Which Reuven was supposed to be the firstborn. He was the firstborn of Jacob, and which Reuven, which should have been the Melech, the king. Kingship should have come from the tribe of Yehuda, from Reuven, and was ultimately given to the tribe of Yehuda. Was ultimately given to the tribe of Judah. And it's a fascinating thing. Why would Yaakovino take away kingship from Reuven and give it over to Yehuda? And ultimately, what the Rebbe wants to bring on over here is the greatness of leadership, which each and every one of us should have. That we should be leaders. That's what the Rebbe wanted. That we should all be leaders in our lives with other people, and we should use out this talent of leadership. Leadership comes, according to Chassidut, leadership comes from the attribute of Malchus, which is kingship. The attribute of Malchus, kingship, is the concept of leadership. The aspect of Dibur, also in Chassidus, the concept of speech comes from Malchus, the concept of leadership, kingship. So we have to understand the aspect of kingship, Malchus, which is really the concept of this Sikha. What is the attribute of Malchus? What do we have? 10 attributes, 10 manifestations. Chochmah, Bina, Das, wisdom, understanding, knowledge. Chesed, kindness. Kindness is also giving. What's the difference between kindness, really, and the concept of Malchus, which is also giving? What's the difference between these two attributes? Melech, being a king and ruling, which is also the concept of giving, and the concept of chesed, kindness, which is the concept of giving, which really, in Kabbalah, the attribute of chesed is Reuven, and the concept of Yehuda is the aspect of Malchus, kingship. So let's go into the story. Ready? Okay. We're holding in this book, my friend. I hope you get this book. The next book coming up, Shemos, which is next week. We start a whole new book. So hopefully those that are on Zoom should surely get the new book, the book of Shemos. Okay. So we start on page 209, text number 1a. Reuven b'chayri ata. Yaakovino says to Reuven, you are my firstborn. Chaychi v'reish shasayni. You are my first might. Yes, you are superior in rank and superior in power. You are my first child. We have a problem. And that is you have a relentless restlessness of water. Therefore, you are not so superior. You lost your superiority.
Restlessness of what?
Restlessness of water. You go to places quickly. You respond too quickly. You have ascended upon your father's couch. Then you profaned him who ascended upon my bed. You profaned God. You have lost your superiority. You have lost your leadership. She says in text number 1b, you are restlessness of water, the restlessness and haste, which you have hastened to display with anger, similarly to water that has hastened its course. Therefore, you shall now have superiority. You shall no longer receive all that superior positions that were fit for you. Now what is the restlessness that you have exhibited? You have ascended of your father's couch. Then you have profaned the name that descends my couch, the Shekhinah, which is accustomed to be upon my bed. So we all know the story that when Rachel passed away, Yaakov always was in the tent of Rachel. Rachel passed away. He moved to the tent of Bilhah, which was Rachel's maidservant. And Reuven felt this was a stab in the back to his mother. So he took his father's bed and he moved it into his mother's tent, Leah. Yaakovino was so affronted by it that he said that he used the terminology that you slept with your terminology. You slept with Bilhah. You played with your father's bed. Chas v'sholem, Reuven did not. That would be a capital offense of Torah, and surely it's incest, and it's married, sleeping with a married woman. But self-understood, Yaakovino said, you played with your mother's, you played with your father's bed. Considered it as you had he considered it as an aspect of an offense to him personally, as he had an affair with his wife. Now, Reuven had great intentions. What did Reuven do? Reuven had true, honest intention to protect his mother's honor. But Yaakov didn't feel that was the right thing he did. And therefore, Yaakovino takes away at this present time kingship from him. Look at text number 2. The Gemara talks about the story and says it was taught in the Brisa of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Said, what is the meaning of the verse? And Reuven lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine. Yishkav as Bilhah. That's what the pasuk says. It doesn't mean that he lay with her literally, because that would be itself another capital offense. Rather, it means Reuven protested the affront to his mother. He said, if his mother's sister Rachel was a rival to my mother, will my mother's sister's concubine be a rival to my mother? Now, okay, he got kibbud aim. But the problem was that he had a father. He had a father, Jacob. He had a problem, Jacob. So he tried to protect his mother against the wishes of his father. He immediately stood up and he rearranged her bed so Jacob would enter Leah's tent. So that's the meaning of the story. Listen, Reuven thought about protecting his mother. He never thought that he would hurt his father. But nevertheless, Yaakovino mentioned this many years later. This is Yaakovino is right now we're talking about 20 to over 30 years, 40 years ago. Yaakov Avinu comes to talk to his son 40 years later on his deathbed to remind him of what he did. Now you'll see that Yaakov Avinu comes to admonish his children 35 years later of something that happened not only with this situation with Reuven, but with Yosef. He mentions a lot Yosef, the struggles with the brother in Yosef that happened. So we know that Yaakov Avinu ultimately had prophecy. He didn't know what happened to his son Yosef, guys. We know that God hid from him the story. But later on, he knows the story to its detail. He knows everything that happened in the story. From Reuven saying, let's throw him in a pit, and there's no water in the pit, and then Yehuda saying, let's sell him. He knows every detail of the story. We don't know if they told him every detail of the story, or he had Ruach HaKodesh, divine, he had prophecy, that ultimately his prophecy came back to him. He knows every detail, and he tells his children every detail of the story. He reminds them of something that happened. Again, we're talking about 30, 40 years ago. He reminds them the story of Joseph. So he rebukes Reuven. We know he rebukes Shimon. He rebukes Levi. And as Rashi says, now Yehuda's turn is coming. And Yehuda thinks it's not going to be good. There's not going to be a good conversation. Dad's going to give me over my head, because he also did. Tamar, and he had stories with Yehuda. He had stories with Yosef too. So he starts to walk backwards, right? He starts to say, okay, we'll do this tomorrow. So Yaakov calls him forward. He says, no. He says, you're different. You're different. You're different. So we go to text number 3a. Yaakov calls Yehuda, and he says, no, a cub and a grown lion is Yehuda. For the prey, my son, you withdrew. He crouched, rest like a lion, and like a lion, who will arouse him? Scepter shall never depart from Yehuda. I give you kingship. You're the students of law between his feet. Until Shiloh comes, which Mashiach, Rashi says, and to him will gather people. You're going to ultimately bring about Mashiach to the world, not only to the Jews, but to the rest of the world. You're going to be the king over the Jewish people. Right? What means Beni Elisa? In the word over there, you withdraw. What is the meaning? So he said, my son, you withdraw yourself. And you said, what gain if we slay our brother and cover his blood? Right? Yehuda said, while he was in the pit, he says to his brother, what are we going to gain? Let's sell him. Right? Let's sell him. Right? Better than killing him. Right? Let's sell him. What are we going to gain out of leaving him in the pit? Let's sell him. So Reuven, let's go back to this story. Reuven was the one who said to throw him in the pit. He also wanted to save him. Right? Reuven also wanted to save him. What was his idea? We'll throw him into a pit. And then he'll leave. And he'll come and get him. Circle back and get him. No, he actually went away, Reuven. He went to serve his father. So he said, throw him in the pit, hoping his brother would travel on. The next day he would come back and get him. The pit you throw him in, but you throw him in the pit that had scorpions and snakes. So okay, but listen, because it's not a holiday. So he threw him into a pit because he wanted us to say, we'll kill him. He'll die in the pit. Well, he'll die in the pit. But he was hoping that the scorpions and the snakes would not touch Joseph. He'll stay there for a day. He'll come back at the end of the day. He'll pick him up and take him back home. What happened was, he came in the meantime, in the day, there is where Yehuda says, let's go and sell him. Take him out of the pit, they sell him. So both, what's the difference between Yehuda and Yosef and Reuven? Both wanted to save him. One said to throw him in a pit. And one said, let's get some money. Let's get some money. Never hurts. Let's get some money. Let's sell him. So Reuven, what is Reuven doing in the time? What is Reuven doing in that time? Where did he go away to? Where did he go to? He went to sit. The Gemara says to sit in the sackcloth. Reuven, after the story that happened with his father, and his father, he realized he made a mistake. So he was in the Baal Tshuva. He became a Baal Tshuva. He became a repentance. He sat and he did tshuva on the sin that he did to his father.
His father blamed him if he did judo.
Right? Seemed he did correct. He did tshuva. Correct. So why didn't he? So seemingly, Yehuda also does tshuva, right? What is going on with Yaakov at this present time? He's bringing up these stories to his sons, right? He's not happy with Reuven still. Seemingly, he says, "You know what? You did tshuva. I know you repented, but still, you don't deserve to be king." With Yehuda, he has a whole different attitude. He says, you're also about tshuva. You're also, but I'm giving you kingship. What's going on over here? What is the difference between these two sons? Favoritism. If it was favoritism, he would have given everything to Joseph. But he doesn't. He gives it to Yehuda. What is Yehuda different than Reuven? That's really the question over here. So let's go to, it's going to continue the story, right? So Yehuda also says, right, in text number 4, she was taken out, she was sent to her father saying, for the man who belongs to this, I'm pregnant. Please recognize whose signet ring and cloth it is. And Yehuda says, she is right? She's better than me. Yehuda also has the courage to publicly. And we see the same thing of Reuven. That same concept, right? So you have text number 5. So the brothers say to one another, behold, the dreamer is coming, right? And they say the second verse, let's go and kill him. Let's do it, let's go kill him. And Reuven heard this, and he saved him from his hands. He said to them, let's not deal with him deadly blow. Reuven said to them, do not shed blood. Cast him into this pit, which is in the desert, but do not lay up a hand upon him in order to save him from their hands and return him to their fathers. Then the sages asked the question. He wants to save him. Where is he? He's Reuven. He wants to save him. So save him. Why? Where is he? So the Gemara asked the question. Where is Reuven when Yosef is sold? His whole dreams about saving him, his whole way to save him, not here. Where is he? So Rabbi Lezer, he's occupied as sackcloth and ashes for 9 years. Reuven sat in a sackcloth and ashes. He's in mourning for the sin that he has done to his father. So he's also about tshuva. We have two Baal Tshuvas in the group, Reuven and Yehuda. They've both done something negative, seemingly. They're both in the aspect of repentance. And one of them is rewarded, and one of them is seemingly not rewarded, cast aside.
Wait, is he in sackcloth and ashes for what he did to Yosef, or for what he did to his father?
His father's bed. That happened before
Why
Yosef.
does he pick that moment to do that?
No, he's doing it the whole time. He's doing it the whole time. He is always majority of the time sitting and mourning. He goes with his brothers to the sheep. He's with them a Parsha time. The rest of the time he's going on the side and sitting in the morning. He was a tzaddik. This guy was a special guy. He understood what he did to his father. And the problem is, but in essence, the Gemara is saying, maybe there's a time for your sackcloth, but now is not the time. You wanted to save him. Stay around. Stay around. Where you going? Where you going? You had a great idea, phenomenal idea, right? They wanted to kill him. You came up with a phenomenal idea, and they listened to you. You told them to put him in the pit, and you have an agenda. They might not know your agenda. You know that. Now you go away. You walk away. Where are you? Oh, you're in mourning. You're sitting with your sackcloth and you're crying and you're begging God forgiveness. Wonderful. But what happens? What happens? So what happens is simple. What happens? You come back. Vayashav Reuven el haber. You come back at the end of the day, right? You're busy. You sat with your sackcloth and you're moored for 4 or 5 hours. You come back at the end of the day, and guess what? Reuven, Yosef is not there.
We did go back.
He's back. He comes back. He comes back. Yosef is not in the boat. So what does he do? He realizes, he renders his garment. He realizes again his mistake. Right? He tells, right? So stay there. No, he goes in, he's doing something great. He's mourning. He's not going out to the pizza store. He went to sit and it's sad. He rips his garment, he tears his garment. That's a tear. He tears his garment. So he rends his garment. Again, he rends his garment. He's constantly in mourning. He's constantly the guy who's in right. By Yoshev Alechov, he comes to his father. He says, where's the child? And where will I go? And all went down. Another drain. Why? Because I wasn't there. So didn't take action. Right? He ran away. That's it. That's he didn't take action on his plan. Whatever. He went to, they didn't hide. He went to mourning. He went to his mourning. He had a Reuven had a schedule. He did certain things, and then he went and sat and cried for what he has done, for the sad thing that he did to his father. I'm not. Let's not. He didn't. As I said, he didn't go to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He went and he mourned. So, in essence, we come to the story over here. Yaakovino is dying. He knows he's dying. And he's giving a blessing to his children. He's giving them the future. He looked at his two sons, right? He looked at his two sons, Reuven and Yehuda. Reuven is his firstborn, deserves to receive everything. Great tzaddik, a great person, a person who wants to save Yosef, his son, which he loved. A person that when he did something negative to his father, he sits and he mourns. He repents. He realizes, how am I going to come back to my father? And then he has the son Yehuda, who also says, I'm going to save my son. He likes that. But he doesn't save him either. Right? The kid take him home. He doesn't do that. He sells him. One guy says, throw him into a pit. I have one son, right? Imagine now, Yaakovino, he has the whole picture in front of him, right? His beloved son, Yosef, has been put through hell. He has these two sons. They're both leaders. One is the oldest. One is the leader, right? Both realize they make a mistake, right? Both disappear in a way, right? Yehuda also goes away from his brothers. He realizes he didn't save the kid. He didn't save him, sold him. Okay, didn't throw him into a pit with scorpions. Sold him to a bunch of Yishmaelim, a bunch of Arabs for 20 shekel. And also goes away from the brothers, becomes marries somebody, has these 3 children, they die. He has this whole story. Yaakovino has the full picture in front of him. He has the whole picture in front of him. And now he has a choice. He gives leadership to Reuven, or he gives leadership to Yehuda. Who does he choose? And he chooses Yehuda. For some reason, he chooses Yehuda. He says, Reuven. Right. So that's it. Very good. You got the general picture. Leadership has to take action. Both of them took action. One said throw him into a pit. The other says sell him. One repents. the other repents. Both are repentive people. Both are repentant people. They're not the tzaddikim. They're righteous people. They know what means a mistake they've done. They know what means a mistake. What's the difference between the way Reuven responds to his mistake and the way Yehuda responds to his mistake? And the Rebbe, self-understood over here, brings out this concept in a way, same thing what you said, but the Rebbe brings out in the way the story is in front of you, Yaakovino, should be the way the story is in front of us, the way we have choices to make, and the way the Rebbe wanted that we should be leaders, and the way we should respond to things that are in front of us, and how to respond. We could respond like Yehud. Both of them respond. We could respond like Reuven, or we could respond like Yehud. And here the Rebbe teaches us something, a very interesting thing, based on the Frierdiker Rebbe, text number 6, teaching of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Slavish Rebbe, which the Rebbe explains something in Chassidus, in Kabbalah, in Chassidus. We all have midas hamalchus. We all have a midah of malchus. What is the midah of malchus? What is the attribute of kingship? What is the meaning to be a king? It's one of the midas that we have, one of the attributes they have, the attribute of kingship. What is that midah mean? What is the meaning to be a king? What is a king? And as I say, the aspect of chesed. Chesed is also giving. What is the difference between chesed, giving, to give somebody else, and to be a king over somebody else? Both is the concept of somebody else, that somebody else needs us. Right? Chesed is somebody else needs our kindness. And kingship, somebody else needs our leadership, our kingship. But what is the difference between these two attributes? And that's really we'll understand the difference between Yaakovino looking at Reuven and Yaakovino looking at Yehuda. So here the Rebbe explained, the Frierdiker Rebbe is not talking about Yaakov Yehuda. The Frierdiker Rebbe is talking about the concept of Malchus. Ready? The sphere of Malchus, yeah?
Why did he only?
Because Yehuda was the leader. That was, Reuven was the oldest, and Yehuda was the inborn natural leader. We know that Yehuda was the inborn natural leader. You see, even in Rashi, that's why they listened to Reuven and they listened to Yehuda. They listened to both of these entities because Reuven, and ultimately we see that in the future again. When it comes to Binyamin, who stands up? Reuven and Yehuda. Reuven was the older brother. He is the born leader. And the Yehuda is the natural leader. Okay. So Reuven is Chesed in Kabbalah, and Yehuda is Malchus, kingship. Ultimately, he's given the kingship. So let's look at the Rebbe explains this concept. The sphere of royalty is different from other spheres. You should know this concept because you learn Tanya. You learn Chassidus, you should know what the sphere of Malchus is, attribute of kingship. Shabbos is the attribute of kingship. The sphere of royalty is different from other spheres. This can be explained in terms of the qualities of the human soul. In the case of the attribute of Malchus, I'm sorry, I have to make somebody read it. In the case of the attribute of kindness, it can exist even if there's no benefactory of that generosity. Who's inherently a good person has goodness and kindness in their heart. And if they happen to encounter somebody who needs it, they will extend that kindness and goodness. But kindness and goodness, let's say you don't have anybody to be kind to, you're still kind. Kindness doesn't have to be on somebody else. Moreover, this internal quality of kindness can manifest as a feeling, even if it isn't directed at anyone per se. And we see in the case of patriarch of Abraham, which is symbolic of kindness, who also experienced the feeling of kindness. Therefore, when Avram circumcised, and God made it exceptionally hot outside to dissuade passers from burdening Abraham, it bothered him because kindness has manifest within him. He had the concept of kindness. And therefore, whether there was somebody there or whether there was nobody there, Avram wanted the aspect of kindness because he was a kind individual. However, the attribute of royalty, which is the soul's quality of preeminence,
Oh,
that's the concept of what's preeminence, hisnasus, leadership, cannot exist without another person.
oh, you have to have someone to lead. Yeah.
You have to have somebody to lead.
You're a leading actor.
Correct. If there's nobody to lead, then you're not a leader. The Gemara expresses, "Ein melech b'lo yam." There's no king without a nation. If you're not a nation, you're not a king at home. Not
That's
because
for sure. You know my home.
you're not a king at home. You're a king over a nation. If you have no nation, you're not a king. Eibishter, in essence, we have to realize this. We have to understand this concept because we also connected to God. God has Sfiras HaMalchus. The Eibishter, God himself, so to say, made himself vulnerable that he's not a king without a nation. That's why the Eibishter asks us every Rosh Hashanah that we should crown him as king.
Yeah, that's
That's why every bracha we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech. Crown, make God king. Because just like there's no king without a nation, there's no nation without a king, and there's no king without a nation.
So is that the ultimate purpose of creation?
Yeah. Correct. That the Eibishter wants to have a dwelling place in this world. That means he wants the world to accept upon him them and to make this place a dwelling place for him, to make a kingship, to make a palace for him in this world. It's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting concept. If you understand this concept, you can understand this whole concept of Malchus Shamayim, Kabbalah. That's why it's brought down that one of the most important principles of Yiddishkeit is Kabbalah's Oil Malchus Shamayim, accepting upon yourself the yoke of kingship. The Eibishter HaMelech is the king. But what does it teach us? That kingship is not dictatorship. That's not kingship. David doesn't want dictatorship. He wants us to want him as a king. Right, to want him as a king. That's what happened. When kingship comes dictatorship, people rebel. It's abusive. They want him as king, they're forced to have him as a king. So that's not kingship, that's dictatorship.
Mm-hmm.
True kingship, the king himself knows that he needs the people. Ein melech b'lo yam. The king realizes that he needs the people. So what does that mean? That means that a true king feels every single person. That makes him a true king. That he feels the needs and the necessity of every single person. You understand that? So not that God is the melech of the world, that God is the melech over me, right? Really, that's really the test of kingship. Not that God's the king of the world, that God's my king. HaMelech, he's my king. Why? Because that's true malchus. That's true. If we understand the true attribute of royalty, is that he's my melech. He cares about me.
That's when the brachas come.
What?
Yes, to-
Right, correct.
Because you brachas,
Correct,
yeah,
because that's his responsibility. Because that's his responsibility. As the attribute of Melech, his responsibility is for me. That's his responsibility. If I'm not there, if I don't, yes, in a way, if I don't accept kingship, so he's not responsible. So the Eibush is my king, and now he becomes responsible. So the Eibush makes himself responsible. God wants that responsibility. That's why we daven every day. We ask God for healing. What do you mean? Go to the doctor. What am I? I'm not a doctor. I'm God. Go. I want money. Go to an accountant. Go get a job. Go to a job. Go get a job. No, the Eibush says no. It's my responsibility. I need to make sure you have a job. I need to make sure you're healthy, because I'm the Melech. I'm royalty, and royalty needs to care not only that about general things. True royalty is that I care about every personal aspect of every person in my realm. It's royalty. That's when Moshe Rabbeinu, when the Jewish people asked for meat, he said, "Ma'ayin li basar." What am I, a butcher? And the Eibush said, "Yes. If you're a melech, if you're royal and you're a melech over Yidden, then you have to care about where is there going to be their meat, where's going to be their food. Not only about where their spiritual aspects are going to be and how godly are they going to be and how close they're going to be to God, but where are they going to get their food? The melech, because I care. Azan, that's why Azan is kala elam kula. When we make up, what do we say? Then what do we say when we do berachas hamazon, grace after meals? Azan is the Eibush gives everybody his necessity. He gives them their food. Don't give them life. Gives them food. Gives them health. Gives them food. It's midas hamalchus. If it was thus chesed, the Eibush is kind. No, it's more than just kind. It's caring. He cares about every individual. He cares about every detail of every individual, and that is midas hamalchus. That's why midas hamalchus is the concept of true humility. Also, where do you see the greatness of God? Where you see His humility in the midas hamalchus. He cares about every detail. Why would God care about every detail? He gives you life alone. Now you take care of the rest. I have to worry about every detail of yours. But that's midas hamalchus. That's the concept of royalty. That's the concept of melech b'Yisrael. That's the concept of leadership. Not that you just care the general, you care of the particular. You care of the detail.
Well, what does that have to do with humility? And we see people don't have all these things. Food, they're sick. How do we reconcile that?
So we beg God that God should heal them. And they should actually, the Gemara says that even though praying for somebody else is a great thing, but the person who's sick himself should pray. He himself should pray. He should pray. It's more close. Even more, right? A person should pray. He should pray. He should realize that the Eibush can heal him. Not the doctor, only the doctor can heal him. That the Eibush can heal him. And if I put myself in that situation, I pray to the Eibush that the Eibush can heal me. Can give me health. Can give me wealth. Can heal me. I'm the Eibush. Not that somebody else can do it for me, but God Himself.
But a lot of people don't end up having health and wealth. Righteous.
I'm not saying that. Listen, whatever the Eibush wants, He'll do. It's good to be God, but a lot of people don't put. A lot of people should put their trust in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Put the trust in God. The internal quality of kindness. I'm sorry. However, the internal. However, the attribute of royalty, which is the soul's quality of preeminence, cannot exist without another person. As we see empirically, somebody lost in a barren desert, devoid of other people, does not experience to add preeminence because he has nobody to be preeminence of. So therefore, the Medrash says in text number 7, the nation appoints the king, and the king cannot appoint himself if they do not appoint him. Therefore, my money, he says, and whatever the Eibishter commands Yidden, he in essence does it himself. So just as the Torah has granted the king great honor and obligate everyone to revere him, self-understood, right? So too has it commanded him to be lowly and empty at heart. As it's written regarding King David, my heart is void within me. Nor should he treat Israel with overbearing haughtiness, as it's written, he should not lift up his heart above his brothers. He should be gracious and merciful to the small and to the great, involving himself with their good and their welfare. He should protect the honor of even the humblest of men. When he speaks to the people and as a community, he should speak to them gently. As is written, listen, my brothers and my people. Similarly, it's written, if today you will be a servant to these people, he should always conduct himself with great humility. And that's why the sad thing is, we don't like kings. We like one king, David HaMelech. We sing David, Melech Yisrael. That's it. Why? Because David was extremely a humble king. He was a great king, great warrior, a great Talmid Chacham, a great Navi in his own rights. But he was an Anav, most humblest person. He was Mu'udah ben Abri, loved by the simple people, loved by everybody. So that was the greatness of king. That's where you have to look at the concept of kingship. David, in essence, understood what is the quality of king. What was the purpose of a king? To connect himself to God, to care about every individual, to make sure every individual had his needs, whether he was poor, whether he was rich, whether he was great, whether he was small. And that's the Eibishter. That's the truth is, that's what God is.
Somewhere in Torah it says,
Right.
what does that mean today? We're in Gaulish, we have no king.
Right.
When Mashiach comes, is there a individual?
First of all, you have today leaders in the Jewish nation. Talmidei Chacham and great sages in the Jewish nation. You have Talmidei Chacham.
king.
No, okay, today we don't have a king. Until Mashiach comes, the Mashiach is going to be the king. Mashiach will be the king. He will be the king.
This guy comes up to me, talking first in Hebrew, which I somehow understand. King Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No politics. We're good. So therefore, let's go back. Let's go back to the class. Get out of the problem. Back to the Torah. So therefore, you're right. Coming back to what to be a king is not to have good intentions, not to have good vision. To be a king is to make people good. Simple as that. To bring it into action. Self-understood, like you said. Bring it into action. To make it a reality. To make it good for you, for your subjects, whatever they might be. Make it good for your subjects. The Eibishter made a beautiful world. Didn't just theorize a beautiful world. Didn't just philosophize about a beautiful world. He made a beautiful world. He made the world a beautiful world. He made that this world, people would be able to live and prosper and to have all their needs and their necessities. You have humans making sodas, but that's not what the Eibishter made. The Eibishter made a beautiful world. The Rebbe would say, this world is a beautiful garden, Basalegani. The Eibishter said, come to my garden. This is my garden. I gave you a beautiful garden. I gave you beauty. I didn't talk about it. I didn't put it in the books. I didn't philosophize about it. I made it. I did it. I made that this world be able to zon and finance kol adam, that this world would give panasa and give food and give life and give sustenance to every person in the world, whether they are kings, whether they are schleppers, whether they are simple people or no people, or good or bad, even bad people.
That's why it's our
And that's the
responsibility
beauty
to
of the
keep it
world.
up.
Keep it up, 100%. But the Eibishter is the taka, the true melech. The Eibishter is taka, the true melech. A melech that gives to everybody. That gives to even people that agree with him or people that disagree with him. People that like him or people that don't like him. He's the son of a fire lakoil.
The universe, the totality of the universe. This is the only place that this was created by Hashem.
Thank God.
There is
Thank
no
God,
other
you can
place in
imagine.
vastness where everything is perfect for our existence.
Let's go. Let's bring this to a completion because we're never going to end. So 9, the Rebbe says Ruvain had the restlessness of water and hastened to display his anger. After concluding that his father's bed belonged in Leah's tent, he got upset at someone else and acted swiftly and immediately to interfere with his father's bed, thus hurting another person. You're right. Reuven helped one person, hurt another person. That's not leadership. Leadership is not to take an action that you're going to help one and hurt somebody else. This is the opposite of true leadership, the Rebbe says. That's the negative. Reuven Takas stood up for his mother, but at the same moment, didn't stand up for his father. So he helped his mother, protected his mother, but hurt his father. That is not what true leadership needs to be done.
Highly presumptuous.
What?
Highly presumptuous of him.
No, he's just too quick.
That's what you.
So the Rebbe continues, text number 10. The difference between Yehuda withdrawing from the prey and Reuven is when Yehuda withdrew from the prey, he actually saved another person. Taki sold him, but he saved him. He saved by selling him. The guy's living. He might be a slave, but he's going to live. What did Reuven do? He threw him into a pit. Yehuda said, what is the gain? He saved Yosef from his brother's plan to kill him. And he took him immediately out of the pit, which contained snakes and scorpions. Intention was nobler than Yehuda, right? And really, Reuven's intention was what? Was to take him home. Yehuda was not taking him home. I'd say Reuven was more nobler intentions than Yehuda. But the difference is, your intentions put him in a pit full of scorpions and you went away. While Yehuda sold him as a slave, gave him life. Although Reuben's intention was nobler than Yehuda, that had to do with his own personal qualities and nothing to do with his ability to benefit, to save others. So you were talking nobler. Your intentions were more nobler, but your actions were no great gain. When he said, let us not deal with him deadly blow, cast him into this pit, in order to save him from the hands and return him to his father, it's all noble intentions. It tells us about his intentions. But practically, he didn't execute Yosef in danger for starving to death.
And then we.
Correct, because you could have been bitten by a scorpion. So actually, what is Reuven's intention? Really, the question is, your intention is to save him? You throw him into a pit full of scorpions? That doesn't make any sense. How are you going to save him? It's a big question. What means that his intention was to save him? He threw him into a pit with full of scorpions and snakes. So how is your intentions to save him?
Doesn't sound too noble.
So Rashi says, Laman Hitzel Oisei, to save him, The Ruach HaKodesh testifies for Reuven that he said this only to save him, so that he would be able to come and take him out from there. He said, I am the firstborn and the eldest of all. The sin will be attributed. He was worried about himself. Was not worried about. He was worried about himself. How am I going to look?
Guilty.
It's not about him. It's not about the kid. It's about himself. He wants to look good. He wants to look holy. He wants to look, and it's good. It is not looking too good for him. So the first part is good. He wants to save Yosef, but really he's trying to save himself. Or Ruvain, what's the difference in Reuven and Yehuda? Ruvain is in a sackcloth. He's sitting and doing tshuva in private, while Yehuda says, he openly says, I made a mistake. Why did he openly do that? To save another person.
Quality already with Tamar.
Right? He says openly in public. Why did he say that publicly? He could have, you know what, been quiet. She would have been killed, and then he'll sit in the sackcloth like Reuven. No, he says it openly. I made a mistake. And what did that happen? That's degrading yourself. She didn't close in public. She just said, whoever it is, you could have said, I don't know who it is. That's it. She didn't say it's yours. She said, whoever this belongs to. So he could have basically said, okay, play the game. I'll go do tshuva later. But he doesn't do that. Why? Because he cares about another. He's going to save her right now. Right? He's going to save the situation right now. He's going to denigrate himself to save the situation. Malchus, I'm going to denigrate myself to save the situation. I'm not going to, you put a guy in a pit and then maybe something's going to happen and maybe I'm going to save the situation right now. I'm going to denigrate myself. I'm going to say, Tzatka Mimeni, she is holier than me. She's more righteous than me because that is mine. And let's save her. He comes back later to find out what happens. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's where you see the difference. And again, we're not here to put down Reuven and to build the Yehuda. It's not the point. Yaakovino is now looking at his two sons. He's looking for leadership in the Jewish nation. He says the leader needs to be a guy who's not perfect. Yehuda was not perfect. He did his own things that he shouldn't have done, but he accepted responsibility to fix the situation, to save the situation. So Yehuda thought for a moment, said, no, I'm not going to be able to get Shimon and Levi to not kill him. I'm going to sell him. At least he's going to live. That's leadership, my friends. Leadership is how do we fix the situation now? How do we fix it and move forward? But how do we fix it? And even though we have to denigrate ourselves, even though we have to stand up and say I made a mistake, how do we fix the situation right now? How do we make the situation a better situation for somebody else? Not for myself. I have to put myself aside. Not by myself. How am I going to change the situation to help another person, to save another person? That's it. So that's it again. Reuben is only afraid of it. Reuben is afraid about himself. So Reuben returns to the pit, and behold, Joseph is not in the pit. He's like shocked. He again renders a garment, and he returns to his brother. Says, "Boy is gone, and where will I go?" Again, he's not worried about the kid. my fee for my father's pain. Again, Reuven is again worried about himself. Where will I go? How am I gonna rectify myself? How am I gonna live with myself? And we don't see this stop. We see this even further on in the story. We see this again further on in the story. It's when they come before Yosef, and Yosef condemns them. So they say again, what did the Jewish people say? The brothers say. And they said to one another, indeed, we are guilty for our brother, for a witness the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we did not listen. That's why all this trouble has come to us. So again, Reuven pipes up. Reuven answers them and said, didn't I tell you, saying, do not sin against this lad? But you did not listen. Behold, his blood is being demanded. What is that meaning of this statement? This is a response. Rabbi Chaim ibn Itar, Rabbi Chaim, says as follows, text number 13. This was his response to their statement, that the reason for the trouble fell them was because they failed to have compassion upon their brother when he begged them. In this reason, they included Reuven. Reuven thus responds and told them that he didn't have a part in the sin because he didn't I tell you, saying, do not sin against this lad? So you're mixing me in your Aveda. You're mixing me in and you're saying, I was the one, don't blame it on me. That was his whole response. His response was, don't blame it on me. It's your fault. Like that's the answer. So you're just extracting yourself from the situation. I told you so. That helps any kind of situation. Extract me from the situation is going to help the situation. He should have just said, you know what? You're right. We made a big mistake. That was Yehuda. Yehuda said, we're right. We made a big mistake. Interesting that Yaakovino brings all this up he brings all this up to explain to them why he's giving leadership to Yehuda. He's explaining to these two guys why he's giving it. He has no choice. He has no choice but to give Yehuda the leadership. Because Reuven, you're a great guy, but you don't have qualities of leadership. You just don't know what it means to be a leader. You're too much into yourself to realize what it means to care about another person. It's a very powerful thing. I feel bad for Yehuda at that time. I feel bad for Reuven. So Yehuda is the one who admits his sins with Tamar and was not embarrassed to do so. And what was his end? He inherited life in the world to come. That's it. So here's a guy who's not afraid to say, I made a mistake. Reuven admitted that he sinned with his father's bed and was not embarrassed. And what was his end? He too inherited life towards the come. Who served the impetus for Reuven to admit to sin? It was Yehuda who served. So Reuven was the first to admit to sin privately with sackcloth and fasting, but he did not confess publicly. However, Yehuda said, she was right from me. Reuven got up and publicly confessed, I too have sinned. I interred my father's bed. So that's what happened. Reuven was needed the Yehuda to teach him what it means to be a leader. What it means to be a leader means to say, I made a mistake. And therefore I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix my mistake. There's nothing wrong to publicly say that I made a mistake. That's a problem with our leaders today. They can never say they made a mistake. It's like a confession of a terrible thing to confess that when they make a mistake. Like some way oblivion above and beyond that they can make a mistake. That they're human. The Gemara says in text number 14c, granted, with regard to Yehuda, it is proper that he admitted his sin in public, so a tumah would not be burned. But why did Reuven admit his sin? Why did Reuven admit his sin in public? Didn't Avshesha say I consider one who specifies a sin in public to be brazen, as one who does so indicate that he's not embarrassed by his action. The reason it was so that his brother should not be suspect of having committed the sin. So you see the problem still. You see the problem. Even though when he commits, when he says I've sinned, it's all to protect. It's all about to protect himself. While Yehuda is all about to protect the other person. And that's why Yaakovino ultimately gives Yehuda, and that's the whole story. So now you have the whole story. You see what's going on over here? There's a lot going on in this week's Parsha. And the truth is, there's a lot going on, not only with these two, there's Yosef involved. You see Yosef is involved in this whole story. And ultimately, Yehuda becomes Melech HaMashiach, because Yehuda teaches us that concept of being able to be Sfiras HaMalchus, to be able to be a leader, a true leader, that realizes that it's about the other. Leadership is about the other. And even if you have to say, I'm sorry about your own situations, you say you're sorry to protect the other, to make sure that the other is protected over oneself.
He says that Yehuda becomes no.
From him comes kingship, and ultimately Mashiach comes from him. So from Yehuda. So ultimately. Okay, let us hope we'll all use our leadership out in life to help others, to uplift others, even if it's on our own time and own denigration and own sacrifice. We help others, we do leadership, and that's what this world needs, to lead and to be an example to others. I wish you all a wonderful day, and Amir Shem will see you. Chazak, chazak, v'nis chazak.